So in this picture, we can see two young boys. One of them has a purple backpack and the other one has a blue backpack. And they're both trying to climb the stairs. The boy with the purple backpack is really struggling to climb up the stairs, whereas the boy with the blue backpack is climbing the stairs easily because he has a big pile of money to climb on. So what's the message of this picture? I think the basic message is quite self-explanatory. It's quite a self-explanatory message, generally. The basic message is that poor children have a harder time than rich kids do. That's the basic message. But why don't we go a little bit deeper than that? Let's think of some real-world examples where this picture would be true. The first thing that comes to mind for me is job opportunities. Job opportunities. For example, when you leave university, let's say you leave university at 21 years old, for example. It can be difficult to get your first professional job after leaving university. It can be quite a difficult thing to do. For the average person, it's difficult. For the average person, after leaving university, you need to start sending out job applications to many different businesses, right? But you're sending the applications in from the outside, like as a complete unknown. According to the company, you are a complete unknown. You are a random person. So it's quite difficult to get your foot in the door at a new company. You understand what I mean? It's difficult to get your foot in the door at a new company. That's hard because they don't know who you are. However, if you're a rich kid, if you leave university at 21 and you have lots of money, you have a wealthy family, right? If you come from a really well-off family, if your parents are really well-off, then maybe your parents may have some connections to different businesses. Maybe your parents' connections can help you to get your foot in the door at a new company. For example, if your dad knows the owner of a business, then maybe your dad can help get you a job interview or even get you a position at this job because you come from a well-off background, because you come from a rich background. So it's much easier to get your foot in the door at a new company if you're from a well-off background, or at least if you have connections inside the company already. Whereas for the average person, for the poorer people, you have to apply for the company from outside the company completely with no connections inside the company, which makes it a lot more difficult, a lot more challenging. Another way that this picture is true, another way that poor people in general, but poor young people, have a more difficult time in life than rich young people, is really in freedom. And I mean freedom to try new things, freedom to follow your passions, freedom to try experiments or to try a new business. Because the problem is when you're poor, you don't necessarily have the freedom to try new things. Maybe you want to become an actor, or maybe you want to become a musician or an artist. But the problem is if you're poor, then you've got to pay the bills, right? You still got to pay the bills. And so it's pretty difficult to become an actor or a musician if you have to worry about paying the bills every month. You have to worry about rent and food and all kinds of costs and expenses that you need to pay, right? So how can you become an actor if you also need to work all the time to pay the bills? It's a lot more difficult. On the other hand, if you're a rich young person, maybe your parents can pay your living costs for you. You know, Maybe your parents will pay for your rent, they will pay for your food and other expenses so that you can focus on becoming an actor, or so that you can focus on becoming a musician, right? A lot of the most amazing actors in the world or musicians in the world, we think they are so amazing. And we might think, wow, how did they become such a good actor? How did this young person become so talented on the piano? Or how did this young actress become so good at what she does and become so successful? Well, maybe it's because they didn't have much else to worry about in their lives. That could be part of it. If you don't have to worry about paying the bills, then you don't have to try to focus on getting a reliable job, a job which is going to bring in money. You don't have to worry too much about that. Instead, if you have rich parents, if you come from a well-off background, then you can follow your passion easily without any concerns. You can just follow your passion. And if your parents are willing to help you with your costs, with your living costs, that means that if you're a rich kid, you will have all the time in the world to get better at acting, to get better at being a musician. You will have all the time in the world to hone your craft. Yes, to hone your craft. Whether that's becoming a better musician, becoming a better actor, you have all this free time because you don't need to work. You don't need to work just to pay your bills. You have all the time in the world to focus on getting better, becoming a better musician, or becoming a better actor. You have lots of time to hone your craft. Loads of time to hone your craft. So a lot of the amazing artists that we praise so highly, we praise these artists so highly. The truth is that some of them, quite a lot of them actually come from pretty rich backgrounds. They come from well-off backgrounds. And so they really had all the time in the world to hone their crafts and to get better. Whereas there may be many poor people, poor young people who are very, very talented, but they don't really have a lot of time to hone their crafts. They spend most of their time going to work and earning money because they're worried about money and they need to pay their rent and pay for their expenses. And so they have less time to focus on becoming a better artist, let's say. So those are just two ways that coming from a well-off family can give you quite an advantage over somebody else who comes from a not so well-off family. Having said all that, of course, it's not all bad, because if you do come from a poor family, you may find that you have strong character because you have had to work to pay your bills. You've had to work hard. So maybe it may give you a strong character. And of course, the negative part, the downside of being a rich kid is that many of these rich kids become lazy. Many of these rich kids get hooked on drugs. Many of these rich kids spend too much time partying, and they come into problems with addiction and things like this. And it does not build their character because they become used to having everything done for them. And so they never really build a strong work ethic. Many rich kids, they don't build a strong work ethic. Whereas poor people generally in many cases, have a good work ethic because they had to build it to earn money. Anyway, that's really the end of this video. This picture really, to sum up, this picture really was about the advantages that rich children and rich young people may have over rich poor people. But what do you think? Do you think this picture's true? Is it always true, or is it true just some of the time? What do you think? Let me know in the comments if you want to contribute. And thank you for watching this video. Keep listening to English, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye-bye. Hello guys. If you want more videos, go to englishsponge.com. On the website, you will find videos from many different teachers, some British teachers and some American teachers. The videos are organized by level A1, A2, B1 and B2, so you can choose which level you want to listen to. So, go to englishsponge.com. The link is in the description of the video.